Michelle Thompson was not just any woman. She was a force to be reckoned with, a successful tech entrepreneur who had built her empire from scratch, an advocate for underrepresented voices in business, and someone who carried herself with quiet confidence wherever she went. On this particular Saturday afternoon, Michelle decided to take a break from her busy schedule. After finalizing a multi-million-dollar deal that morning, she felt it was time to reward herself. Her destination? Chic & Co., one of Manhattan's most exclusive fashion boutiques. The boutique sat nestled between other high-end stores on Fifth Avenue, its windows adorned with mannequins wearing the latest designer collections. It was the kind of place where celebrities shopped and magazine editors sourced inspiration for their next big spreads. For Michelle, stepping into Chic & Co. wasn't about flaunting wealth or status. It was simply about indulging in something beautiful. She loved fashion, especially when it told a story or celebrated craftsmanship. Today she wanted to find something special, perhaps a dress for an upcoming gala, or a statement handbag that would complement her growing collection. Dressed in tailored slacks, a crisp white blouse, and low-heeled loafers, Michelle walked through the glass doors of the boutique. The bell above the entrance chimed softly as she entered, signaling her arrival. The interior was everything you'd expect from such a prestigious store: pristine white walls, gleaming marble floors, and racks of clothing arranged like works of art. Soft jazz music played in the background, creating an ambiance of sophistication. Yet despite the opulence surrounding her, Michelle couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As she began browsing, she noticed the sales associates moving around the store. There were 3 of them, all impeccably dressed in sleek, black uniforms. They glided gracefully between the racks, offering assistance to customers with warm smiles and polite greetings. But none of them approached Michelle. At first, she thought nothing of it. Maybe they were busy helping other patrons. So she continued looking at the clothes, running her fingers over the fabric of a silk blouse here, admiring the intricate embroidery of a gown there. Minutes passed, and still no one acknowledged her presence. Meanwhile, the associates flocked to other shoppers, mostly white women, who arrived after Michelle. One associate even rushed to help a young blonde woman trying on sunglasses, exclaiming how perfect they looked on her. Another stood chatting animatedly with a group of friends, laughing at their jokes while holding up dresses for them to consider. Michelle watched these interactions unfold, her initial patience slowly giving way to discomfort. She reminded herself that this wasn't the first time she'd experienced being overlooked in spaces like this. Over the years, she'd grown accustomed to subtle snubs, whether it was being seated farther away from the window at restaurants or having clerks assume she couldn't afford certain items. These moments always left a bitter taste, but she usually brushed them aside, focusing instead on proving her worth through her achievements. Today, however, felt different. Perhaps it was because she'd come straight from closing a major deal, or maybe it was the sheer irony of being ignored in a store designed to cater to people exactly like her, successful, stylish, and discerning. 2. Test the situation. Michelle picked up a navy blue blazer from a nearby rack and held it out as if seeking advice. Surely, someone would notice now, but the closest associate merely glanced in her direction before turning back to assist another customer. No words were exchanged, no acknowledgement given. It was as though Michelle had become invisible. Feeling increasingly frustrated, Michelle decided to try one more thing. She walked over to a display table stacked with designer scarves and deliberately knocked over a stack of neatly folded cashmere wraps. The sound of fabric tumbling to the floor echoed through the otherwise serene boutique. Finally, one of the associates turned toward her. Instead of apologizing or offering help, the woman rolled her eyes slightly and muttered under her breath, "Oh, great," before reluctantly walking over to fix the mess. That small gesture, the eye roll, the sigh, the dismissive tone was the last straw. Michelle felt a surge of anger rising within her, but she forced herself to stay calm. She didn't want to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her upset. Instead, she straightened her posture, squared her shoulders, and made a silent vow. She would leave this store without spending a single penny. Not only that, but she would make sure her absence was felt. With a deep breath, Michelle placed the blazer back on the rack and smoothed down her blouse. She took one last look around the boutique, committing every detail to memory. The pristine displays, the indifferent staff, the luxurious surroundings, and then turned on her heel. As she pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped back onto the bustling street, she felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her. Indignation, disappointment, but also determination. This wasn't the end of her day. It was only the beginning. Little did Michelle know the events of the next few hours would transform not just her own life, but also the lives of countless others. Her decision to walk out of Chic & Co. empty-handed would set off a chain reaction that no one could have predicted. And as she crossed the street toward another glittering storefront, she had no idea that the best part of her day was yet to come. Michelle stepped out of Chic & Comicarn and onto the busy sidewalk, her heels clicking softly against the pavement. The cool autumn breeze brushed past her face, carrying with it the faint scent of roasted chestnuts from a nearby street vendor. For a moment she paused, taking in the lively atmosphere around her. Fifth Avenue was alive with energy. Shoppers weaving in and out of stores, tourists snapping photos, and cars honking as they navigated the crowded streets. But despite the vibrant scene unfolding before her, Michelle's mind remained focused on what had just happened inside the boutique. She replayed the events in her head, dissecting every detail, the way the sales associates ignored her, their dismissive body language, the subtle yet unmistakable snub that left her feeling invisible. It wasn't just about the lack of service, it was the message behind it. To them, she wasn't a potential customer. She was someone who didn't belong, someone unworthy of attention or respect. The realization stung more than she cared to admit. Michelle had worked tirelessly to get where she was today. She'd started her tech company in her early 20s, pouring every ounce of energy into building something meaningful. There were sleepless nights, endless pitches to skeptical investors, and countless moments when failure seemed inevitable. But through sheer determination and resilience, she had turned her vision into reality. Now, at 35, she was one of the most respected figures in her industry, with a net worth that placed her among the elite. Yet none of that mattered to the people at Chic & Co. All they saw, or rather didn't see, was a black woman walking through their doors. As these thoughts swirled in her mind, Michelle felt a familiar mix of emotions bubbling up. Frustration, sadness, and a deep-seated anger that threatened to boil over. But instead of letting those feelings consume her, she did what she always did in challenging situations. She channeled them into action. She reminded herself that she deserved better. Better treatment, better spaces, better everything. And if Chic & Co. couldn't recognize her value, then she would find somewhere else that could. Her eyes scanned the storefronts across the street, searching for inspiration. That's when she noticed it, a gleaming sign above a luxurious boutique that caught her eye, Luxora Gems. The name alone exuded elegance, but it was the window display that truly captivated her. A breathtaking diamond necklace sparkled under the soft glow of strategically placed lights, its brilliance almost hypnotic. Surrounding it were other exquisite pieces, emerald earrings, sapphire rings, and gold bracelets adorned with intricate designs. Each item seemed more dazzling than the last, calling out to anyone who dared to dream of owning such treasures. For a brief second, Michelle hesitated. Was this really the right time to indulge in luxury? After all, she hadn't planned on spending money today. But then again, why shouldn't she? She had earned this. Every penny in her bank account was a testament to her hard work, creativity, and perseverance. Why should someone else's prejudice dictate how she spent her day or her money? With renewed resolve, Michelle crossed the street, her pace steady and deliberate. The moment she entered Luxora Gems, she knew it was a completely different world. The air inside was cool and inviting, filled with the faint aroma of vanilla and sandalwood. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm golden light over the entire space. Glass cases lined the walls, each one showcasing an array of stunning jewelry pieces arranged like works of art. In the center of the room stood a circular display table where a few customers were admiring a selection of diamond-encrusted watches. Unlike her experience at Chic & Keuigler, Michelle was greeted almost immediately. A young woman named Elena approached her with a genuine smile, her demeanor polite yet warm. "Good afternoon," Elena said, her voice soft but confident. "Welcome to Luxora Gems. How may I assist you today?" The simple act of acknowledgement made Michelle exhale a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. For the first time that day, she felt seen not as a stereotype or an assumption, but as a valued individual deserving of respect. She returned Elena's smile and replied, "Thank you, I'm just browsing for now, but that necklace in the window caught my eye." Elena nodded enthusiastically, clearly pleased by Michelle's interest. "Ah, yes, the celestial diamond necklace. It's one of our most popular pieces. Would you like to take a closer look?" Without waiting for an answer, Elena led Michelle to the display case near the entrance. She carefully unlocked it and retrieved the necklace, placing it on a velvet tray for Michelle to examine. As Michelle leaned in to study the piece, she couldn't help but marvel at its craftsmanship. The diamonds were flawless, catching the light in a way that made them seem almost alive. Each stone was meticulously set in a delicate platinum chain, creating a design that was both timeless and modern. "It's beautiful," Michelle murmured, her earlier frustrations melting away as she lost herself in the allure of the jewelry. Elena nodded in agreement, her enthusiasm evident. "It truly is. We've had clients wear it to galas, weddings, even red carpet events. It makes quite the statement." Encouraged by Elena's attentiveness, Michelle allowed herself to relax. For the first time that day, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged, in a space that celebrated beauty and excellence, surrounded by people who appreciated her presence. As Elena continued to showcase other pieces, Michelle found herself drawn deeper into the world of luxury jewelry. There was a pair of emerald earrings that shimmered like dewdrops on grass, a sapphire ring that seemed to hold the ocean within its depths, and a bracelet encrusted with rubies that glowed like firelight. Each piece told a story, evoking emotions and memories that resonated with Michelle on a personal level. She thought about the gala she was attending next month, imagining how the celestial diamond necklace would complement her evening gown. She pictured herself wearing the emerald earrings during a board meeting, their vibrancy reflecting her confidence and authority. And the ruby bracelet? It felt like the perfect accessory for a night out with friends, bold and unapologetic. Before long, Michelle realized she wasn't just browsing anymore. She was indulging in a form of self-expression, using jewelry as a way to celebrate her achievements and reclaim her sense of worth. Every purchase she considered felt like a declaration. "I am here. I matter. My success speaks for itself." Elena sensed Michelle's growing interest and offered to bring out additional pieces from the vault, a private collection reserved for select clients. When Michelle agreed, Elena disappeared momentarily, returning with a tray of even more spectacular items. Among them was a vintage diamond brooch shaped like a peacock, its tail feathers adorned with sapphires and emeralds. Another piece was a pearl and diamond choker that dated back to the 1920s, its Art Deco design evoking images of flappers and jazz clubs. By now, Michelle was fully immersed in the experience. She tried on several pieces, admiring how they transformed her appearance, not just physically, but emotionally. Each necklace, earring, and bracelet added a layer of sophistication and confidence, reminding her of the power she carried within herself. By the time she settled on a final selection, Michelle had chosen not just jewelry, but symbols of strength, resilience, and triumph. As Elena rang up the purchases, Michelle glanced at the total amount displayed on the screen. It was a staggering figure, far beyond what most people would spend in a single shopping trip. But to Michelle, it wasn't about the money. It was about proving, to herself and to the world, that she was worthy of the finest things life had to offer. And if Chic & Co. couldn't see that, then so be it. Their loss was Luxora Gems' gain. When the transaction was complete, Elena handed Michelle a beautifully wrapped box containing her new treasures. "Thank you so much for shopping with us," Elena said warmly. "We hope you enjoy your pieces. Please don't hesitate to visit us again. We'd love to have you back." Michelle smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction that went beyond the thrill of acquiring luxury items. She thanked Elena and left the store, her steps lighter and her spirit uplifted. What had started as a disappointing outing had turned into an empowering experience, one that reminded her of her value and reinforced her belief in the importance of being treated with dignity and respect. As she walked down the street, Michelle couldn't help but glance back at Luxora Gems one last time. Little did she know her decision to shop there would set off a ripple effect that would reach far beyond her own life. As Michelle stepped out of Luxora Gems with her beautifully wrapped box in hand, she felt a renewed sense of confidence. The weight of the jewelry inside wasn't just physical, it was symbolic, a reminder that she could command respect and admiration wherever she went. But what surprised her most was how quickly the staff at Luxora Gems had made her feel valued. It wasn't just about selling expensive items. It was about creating an experience that celebrated her individuality and success. For the first time that day, Michelle felt like she was truly seen, not as someone to be judged or dismissed, but as a person worthy of attention and care. The transformation in her mood was palpable. Gone was the frustration from earlier, replaced by a quiet satisfaction that came from knowing she'd made the right choice. As she strolled down Fifth Avenue, she couldn't help but reflect on the stark contrast between her experiences at Chic & Co. and Luxora Gems. While one store had left her feeling invisible, the other had embraced her with open arms. The difference wasn't lost on her. In fact, it sparked something deeper, a realization that this moment held more significance than just a single shopping trip. Back inside Luxora Gems, word of Michelle's extravagant purchase spread like wildfire among the staff. Elena, who had assisted her, couldn't stop gushing about the encounter to her colleagues. "She was amazing," Elena said, her eyes lighting up as she recounted the details. "Not only did she have incredible taste, but she carried herself with such grace and confidence. You could tell she knew exactly what she wanted." The boutique's manager, a poised woman named Claire, overheard the conversation and immediately approached Elena. "Who are you talking about?" Claire asked. Her curiosity piqued. When Elena explained that Michelle had spent millions on jewelry, Claire's jaw dropped. "Millions?" she repeated, stunned. "That's unheard of for a first-time customer." Claire wasted no time in reviewing the transaction records herself. Sure enough, the numbers confirmed Elena's account. Michelle had purchased several high-end pieces, including the celestial diamond necklace, the vintage peacock brooch, and multiple other items that collectively amounted to a staggering sum. Impressed by the sale, and eager to ensure Michelle became a loyal client, Claire instructed her team to prepare a handwritten thank you note, along with an exclusive invitation to Luxora Gems' upcoming VIP event. This wasn't just protocol for big spenders. It was a gesture meant to show appreciation and build lasting relationships. Meanwhile, across the street at Chic & Co, things were far less celebratory. News of Michelle's spending spree at Luxora Gems had already begun circulating through the tight-knit community of luxury retailers. Word traveled fast in places like Fifth Avenue, where competition between stores was fierce and reputations mattered. One of the sales associates at Chic & Co, overhearing snippets of gossip from a neighboring boutique, pieced together the story. The black woman they had ignored earlier that day was the same one who had just dropped millions at their rival store. At first, disbelief rippled through the boutique's staff. How could they have missed such an opportunity? They prided themselves on catering to affluent clientele, yet they had failed to recognize one of the wealthiest women walking through their doors. Guilt quickly followed, mingling with regret as the reality sank in. The associate who had rolled, her eyes at Michelle, now cringed at the memory, replaying the interaction in her mind and realizing how dismissive she must have seemed. Another staffer recalled seeing Michelle browse the racks, noting how polished and put together she looked, and wondered aloud why no one had bothered to assist her. The store manager, hearing the murmurs among her employees, called an impromptu meeting to address the situation. "I don't know all the details yet," she began, her tone serious, but I do know that we may have made a grave mistake today. If what I'm hearing is true, we lost a major sale because of our own negligence. More importantly, we disrespected a potential customer, and that's unacceptable." Her words hung heavy in the air as the team sat in silence, each member grappling with their role in the oversight. Some tried to justify their actions, suggesting that maybe Michelle hadn't seemed interested or that they were simply too busy helping other customers. But deep down, they knew the truth. Assumptions had been made based on appearance, and those assumptions had cost them dearly. Determined to salvage the situation, or at least learn from it, the manager decided to investigate further. She reached out to contacts at Luxora Gems, discreetly inquiring about the mysterious shopper who had made headlines that afternoon. Though the staff at Luxora Gems didn't divulge specific details, client confidentiality was paramount. They confirmed that the customer in question was indeed someone extraordinary. "She's remarkable," one associate described. "Not just because of her purchases, but because of the way she carries herself. You can tell she's accomplished, intelligent, and incredibly kind." Hearing this feedback only deepened the regret at Chic & Co. The manager realized that her team's failure wasn't just a missed business opportunity. It was a reflection of deeper biases embedded within their culture. These weren't isolated incidents, they were symptoms of a larger issue that needed addressing. With a heavy heart, she resolved to take action, vowing to implement changes that would prevent similar mistakes in the future. Back at Luxora Gems, Michelle's impact continued to resonate. Claire, inspired by the glowing reports from her staff, decided to personally reach out to Michelle. She drafted a heartfelt email thanking her for her patronage and extending the invitation to the VIP event. "We are honored to have served you today," Claire wrote, "and we hope to welcome you back soon. Your presence brightens our boutique and your support means the world to us." When Michelle received the email later that evening, she smiled. It wasn't often that she felt genuinely appreciated in spaces like this, and Claire's message stood out as sincere and thoughtful. Flipping through the photos of her new jewelry, she marveled at how much had changed in just a few hours. What started as a disappointing outing had transformed into an empowering experience that reaffirmed her worth and reminded her of the importance of being treated with dignity. But Michelle also knew that her story wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had ever been overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed because of their race, gender, or background. She thought about the countless others who might walk into stores like Chic & Co. and face similar treatment. Wasn't it time for that narrative to change? With these thoughts swirling in her mind, Michelle began drafting a response to Claire's email. She thanked the boutique for their warm hospitality and accepted the invitation to the VIP event. But she also hinted at something bigger, a desire to use her platform to spark meaningful conversations about representation, inclusivity, and respect in luxury retail. Little did she know, this decision would set the stage for a ripple effect that extended far beyond Fifth Avenue. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Manhattan, Michelle felt a quiet determination settle within her. Her day had been filled with highs and lows, triumphs and challenges, but it had ultimately reinforced one undeniable truth. When people choose to see you for who you truly are, the possibilities are endless. And if they refuse to see you, then proving them wrong becomes its own reward. Michelle's day was far from over. After leaving Luxora Gems, she found herself reflecting on the whirlwind of emotions she'd experienced, from the sting of being ignored at Chic & Co. to the exhilaration of being celebrated at Luxora Gems. As she walked along Fifth Avenue, her steps slowed, and she paused outside a cafe with large glass windows that offered a view of the bustling street. She decided to sit for a moment, ordering a cappuccino as she gathered her thoughts. The jewelry box sat beside her on the table, its elegant packaging gleaming under the soft cafe lights. Every time Michelle glanced at it, she felt a surge of pride, not just in the purchases themselves, but in what they represented. These weren't mere trinkets. They were symbols of resilience, self-worth, and the power to rewrite narratives. For years, Michelle had faced moments like the one at Chic & Co., where people underestimated her because of preconceived notions about who she was or what she could afford. But today, she had turned that narrative on its head. She had proven, to herself if no one else, that her value wasn't defined by someone else's ignorance. As she sipped her coffee, Michelle pulled out her phone and began scrolling through photos of the pieces she'd bought. There was the celestial diamond necklace, its brilliance captured perfectly in the boutique's lighting. Then there were the emerald earrings, their vivid green hue reminiscent of lush rainforests. Each photo brought back memories of how the jewelry had made her feel when she tried it on, empowered, confident, unstoppable. It occurred out to her that these items weren't just accessories. They were tools of transformation, reminders that beauty and strength often go hand in hand. Her mind drifted back to Elena, the sales associate at Luxora Gems, who had treated her with such warmth and professionalism. Michelle couldn't help but compare Elena's demeanor to the dismissive attitudes she'd encountered earlier. The difference was striking. At Chic & Co., she had been invisible, reduced to a stereotype, before anyone even spoke to her. But at Luxora Gems, she had been welcomed as an equal, a valued customer whose presence enriched the store. It wasn't rocket science, Michelle thought wryly. Treating people with respect shouldn't be revolutionary. It should be standard practice. But as much as she appreciated Elena's kindness, Michelle knew this wasn't just about one person or one store. It was about systems and patterns, how biases seeped into everyday interactions, shaping experiences in ways that were often subtle yet deeply impactful. She thought about all the times she'd walked into high-end spaces only to feel like she didn't belong. Whether it was a restaurant hostess seating her farther away from the window or a sales clerk assuming she couldn't afford certain items, these microaggressions added up over time. They created barriers, not just for her but for countless others who shared similar backgrounds. And yet here she was, sitting in a chic cafe after spending millions on jewelry. The irony wasn't lost on her. If anything, it fueled her determination to use this moment as a catalyst for change. Michelle had always believed in the power of storytelling. Her career as a tech entrepreneur had taught her that innovation thrived when diverse voices were heard and respected. Now, she realized, the same principle applied to industries like luxury retail. If stores like Chic & Co. wanted to thrive, they needed to understand that inclusivity wasn't just a buzzword, it was good business. With renewed focus, Michelle opened her laptop and began drafting an article. She titled it, "The Cost of Ignoring Black Excellence," and poured her heart into every word. In the piece, she recounted her experience at Chic & Co., describing the subtle snubs and dismissive behavior she'd encountered. She didn't name names or seek revenge. Instead, she framed the story as a learning opportunity, urging retailers to examine their practices and consider the impact of unconscious bias on customer relationships. But Michelle didn't stop there. She also highlighted her positive experience at Luxora Gems, emphasizing how transformative it felt to be treated with dignity and respect. She praised the staff for their attentiveness and professionalism, noting that their actions had turned a potentially disappointing day into something extraordinary. By contrasting the two experiences, Michelle hoped to illustrate a simple truth. Treating customers fairly wasn't just the right thing to do. It was essential for building loyalty and trust. When she finished writing, Michelle reread the article multiple times, tweaking sentences until they flowed seamlessly. Satisfied with the result, she submitted it to a prominent fashion magazine known for its progressive editorial stance. Within hours, the piece went live online, accompanied by a striking photo of Michelle wearing the celestial diamond necklace. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media erupted with reactions as readers shared the article across platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Many praised Michelle for speaking out, calling her words powerful, necessary, and long overdue. Others shared their own stories of being overlooked or mistreated in luxury spaces, creating a thread of solidarity among marginalized communities. Some commenters directed their frustration toward Chic & Co., tagging the boutique in posts and demanding accountability. Hashtags like Black Excellence Matters and CIUS trended throughout the day, amplifying the conversation. Back at Chic and Kodu, the backlash hit hard. Employees huddled around computers watching as angry tweets flooded their social media feeds. Calls poured into the store, with customers canceling appointments and vowing never to shop there again. Even longtime patrons expressed disappointment, questioning whether they too had been complicit in perpetuating harmful stereotypes. The manager, already reeling from the news of Michelle's extravagant purchase at Luxora Gems, now faced mounting pressure to address the growing controversy. In an effort to mitigate the damage, the boutique issued a public apology via Instagram. "We are deeply sorry for any instance where a customer felt unwelcome or disrespected in our store," the statement read. "At Chic and Kodu, we strive to provide exceptional service to everyone who walks through our doors, regardless of background or identity. We recognize that we fell short of this commitment and are taking steps to ensure it does not happen again." While some critics dismissed the apology as performative, others saw it as a starting point for meaningful change. Among them was Michelle herself. When the boutique reached out to her directly, expressing regret and inviting her to discuss potential solutions, she agreed to meet, but with conditions. She made it clear that she wasn't interested in empty gestures or PR stunts. If Chic and Kodu truly wanted to make amends, they would need to commit to tangible actions that addressed systemic issues within their organization. The meeting took place a week later in a private conference room at Chic & Co.'s headquarters. Michelle arrived dressed impeccably, her confidence radiating as she shook hands with the CEO and senior leadership team. Over the course of 2 hours, she presented a bold proposal, a partnership between Chic and Kodu and emerging Black designers, aimed at fostering diversity and representation in the fashion industry. The initiative would include mentorship programs, exclusive showcases, and scholarships for aspiring creatives from underrepresented backgrounds. At first, the executives hesitated, citing logistical challenges and budget constraints. But Michelle countered their concerns with data and examples, demonstrating how investing in diversity could benefit not only the brand, but also the broader community. By the end of the meeting, the CEO reluctantly agreed to move forward with the project, recognizing it as an opportunity to repair their tarnished reputation while contributing to positive change. For Michelle, the victory was bittersweet. She was proud of what she had accomplished. She knew the road ahead would be long and challenging. Change rarely happened overnight, especially in industries steeped in tradition and exclusivity. But she also knew that progress started with small steps, and today she had taken one. As she left the meeting, Michelle felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. What had begun as a frustrating encounter at a boutique had evolved into something far greater, a platform to advocate for equity and inclusion. And though the journey was far from over, she was ready to face whatever came next, with grace, determination, and a diamond necklace that reminded her of her worth. The weeks following Michelle's meeting with Chic and Kodu were a whirlwind of activity. News of the boutique's partnership proposal spread quickly, not just within the fashion industry but also among activists and advocates for diversity. Social media buzzed with reactions, ranging from cautious optimism to outright skepticism. Some praised Michelle for holding Chic and Kodu accountable and pushing them toward meaningful change, while others questioned whether the initiative was merely a superficial attempt to salvage their damaged reputation. Despite the mixed responses, one thing was clear: Michelle had ignited a conversation that couldn't be ignored. Back at Chic and Kodu, the leadership team scrambled to implement the changes Michelle had proposed. The CEO, initially hesitant about the scope of the project, soon realized there was no turning back. Public pressure mounted as customers continued to voice their concerns online, and competitors began positioning themselves as more inclusive alternatives. To regain trust, Chic and Kodu needed to act decisively and fast. The first step was assembling a task force dedicated to diversity and inclusion. This group included representatives from various levels of the company, as well as external consultants with expertise in equity initiatives. Among these consultants was Dr. Samantha Carter, a renowned sociologist who specialized in addressing systemic bias in corporate environments. Her presence lent credibility to the effort, signaling that Chic and Combrier was serious about creating lasting change. Dr. Carter wasted no time diving into the work. She conducted workshops for employees, encouraging open discussions about unconscious bias and cultural sensitivity. During one particularly poignant session, she asked staff members to share personal stories of discrimination or exclusion they had witnessed or experienced themselves. Many broke down in tears as they recounted moments when they felt powerless or unseen. It became evident that the problem wasn't isolated to interactions with customers like Michelle. It permeated every level of the organization. Meanwhile, Michelle played an active role in shaping the mentorship program for emerging Black designers. She collaborated closely with Chic & Co's creative director to identify talented individuals whose work aligned with the boutique's aesthetic. These designers weren't chosen solely based on their potential to appeal to existing clientele. They were selected because their unique perspectives could challenge and expand the brand's vision. One such designer was Jasmine Reed, a young woman from Atlanta, whose bold use of color and texture had already garnered attention in independent fashion circles. Jasmine's designs told stories of resilience and heritage, blending traditional African patterns with modern silhouettes. 2. Celebrate the launch of the mentorship program. Chic & Co hosted an exclusive event at its flagship store. Invitations were sent to influencers, editors, and key figures in the fashion world, ensuring maximum visibility. On the night of the event, the boutique was transformed into a vibrant showcase of creativity and culture. Mannequins wore pieces, designed by Jasmine and other mentees, each accompanied by plaques detailing the inspiration behind the collection. A live DJ spun Afrobeat music, filling the space with energy and rhythm, while hors d'oeuvres inspired by global cuisines were served to guests. Michelle attended the event, dressed in a custom gown created by Jasmine. The dress featured intricate beadwork that shimmered under the lights, drawing compliments from everyone she passed. As she mingled with attendees, Michelle noticed how different the atmosphere felt compared to her previous visit. Gone were the cold stares and dismissive attitudes. Instead, she was greeted warmly by staff and guests alike. Several people approached her to express gratitude for her advocacy, thanking her for shining a light on issues that had long been swept under the rug. One guest, a prominent editor from a leading fashion magazine, pulled Michelle aside for a private conversation. "You've done something remarkable here," the editor said, gesturing toward the bustling crowd. "This isn't just about repairing Chic & Co's image. It's about setting a new standard for the entire industry. Other brands are watching this closely, and I think we'll see more of them following suit." Michelle nodded thoughtfully. "That's exactly what I hope happens," she replied. "Change doesn't happen overnight, but if we can create a blueprint for success, maybe others will feel inspired to take similar steps." The editor agreed, adding that she planned to feature Jasmine and the other mentees in an upcoming issue of the magazine. For Michelle, this was validation that her efforts were paying off, not just for herself but for the next generation of designers who deserved a seat at the table. While the event marked a significant milestone, Michelle knew there was still much work to be done. True accountability required sustained commitment, not just flashy campaigns or one-time gestures. She remained vigilant, keeping tabs on Chic & Co Mokes to ensure they followed through on their promises. Regular check-ins with the CEO and updates from Dr. Carter reassured her that progress was being made, though challenges persisted. For instance, some employees resisted the new training programs, viewing them as unnecessary or overly political. Others struggled to adapt to the shift in priorities, feeling uneasy about working alongside designers whose styles differed dramatically from what Chic & Co traditionally offered. These growing pains were inevitable, but Michelle saw them as opportunities for growth rather than roadblocks. She reminded herself, and anyone else who doubted the process, that change was uncomfortable by nature. If it didn't push boundaries, it wouldn't lead to transformation. Outside of Chic & Cobrier, Michelle's influence continued to ripple across industries. Her op-ed piece, "The Cost of Ignoring Black Excellence," had struck a chord with readers far beyond the world of fashion. Business leaders reached out to her, seeking advice on how to foster inclusivity within their own organizations. Nonprofits invited her to speak at conferences, sharing her story as a testament to the importance of representation and respect. Even tech companies, her original field of expertise, began revisiting their hiring practices and workplace policies, inspired by her example. Through it all, Michelle remained grounded. She understood that her platform came with responsibility, and she used it wisely, amplifying voices that might otherwise go unheard. Whether mentoring young entrepreneurs or collaborating with grassroots organizations, she approached every opportunity with humility and purpose. One evening, as she sat in her apartment overlooking the city skyline, Michelle reflected on how much had changed since that fateful day on Fifth Avenue. What started as a frustrating encounter at a boutique had evolved into a movement, a call to action for businesses to recognize the value of diversity and inclusion. Though she hadn't set out to become an advocate, she embraced the role wholeheartedly, knowing it was bigger than herself. Her gaze drifted to the jewelry box sitting on her dresser. Inside were the pieces she'd purchased at Luxora Gems, each one a reminder of her journey, from invisibility to empowerment, from frustration to triumph. As she admired the celestial diamond necklace in the soft glow of her bedside lamp, Michelle smiled. The necklace wasn't just a symbol of wealth. It was a testament to resilience, a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. And as she turned off the light and settled into bed, Michelle allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The road ahead would undoubtedly have its ups and downs, but she was ready. Ready to continue advocating, inspiring, and proving that excellence knows no bounds. Because when you choose to see someone for who they truly are, the possibilities are endless.